The fashion industry is rapidly evolving. There's a lot of regulation coming down the pipeline. Consumer preferences are changing and they're demanding brands to be more conscious. And so if you don't have a sustainability strategy, you need to watch this video. Let's dive in. If you're just starting your brand sustainability journey, the first step is to accept that you're going to be imperfectly sustainable. What I mean by that is, if you think about it, there is no truly sustainable fashion brand or truly sustainable business in the world, because every single business emits carbon, uses electricity, and has an impact on the environment. That's just inevitable. However, the name of the game when it comes to sustainability is really about balance. How do you balance still being in business, having a profit, employing people, taking care of people, and also doing all those things while minimizing your impact on the environment? That's really what the purpose is here. It's not to be perfectly sustainable, and that's just really not realistic in my opinion. And hopefully really accepting that you're gonna be imperfectly perfect at this is freeing for you. Because I know a lot of people put pressure when they first start their sustainability journey to be perfect because they're afraid of backlash or they're afraid of doing it wrong. But I'm giving you the permission and I'm telling you that you're gonna be imperfect at this, and that's okay. But you just need to start and you need to try. And given your time, your resources, and your budgets, do the best you can. The other thing to remember too is that this is a journey. This does not happen all overnight. And so you need to continuously improve, continuously iterate, and it's not going to happen just like that. You need to work at it. And so understand you're going to be imperfectly perfect, and that's okay because everyone else is in the same boat. The next step is to choose your sustainability priorities. I always tell our clients to choose their priorities because sustainability in general can be so overwhelming. If you try to tackle the entire fashion industry's problems, and there's a lot, as you likely know, such as the harmful materials, the unethical treatment of garment workers, the millions and millions of tons of textile waste we're sending to our landfills. That's just the tip of the iceberg, by the way. But if you're trying to solve all these different problems with your brand, you're gonna get overwhelmed very quickly, and then you're likely gonna get paralyzed and likely just not wanna do anything. That's not what we need. So what you're gonna do is pick your sustainability priorities. We always tell our clients to pick 1 or 2 priorities, especially if you're a small brand that's just starting out, or even if you're a medium-sized brand. Because given your time, resources, and energy, you cannot tackle the entire fashion industry's problems, and you cannot solve all of them. That's just not realistic. So pick and choose your battles. And I will have a little disclaimer here. I know that whenever I say that, people start to freak out because they're like, okay, but if I just choose not to use plastic and I really focus on water usage with my brand, does that mean I'm paying unethical living wages to my garment workers? That's not the case, because as a sustainable fashion brand or a slow fashion brand, you are already above average. And so you're already going to be doing better than most fashion brands out there. And I know that you're going to try to do your hardest on the other areas. But what I'm saying is for those 1 to 2 priorities, you're going to really focus to knock it out of the park. You'll want to make sure that you're doing the leading edge, cutting edge things, and you're really, really focusing on those 1 to 2 items. The reason this is important is if you try to do everything with the limited time, resources, and budgets you have, you're not going to make the impact that's going to be actually impactful, right? Because if you think about it, if you're just doing a little bit here, a little bit there, and a little bit here, it's just all not going to add up to very much. Whereas if you really focus and you put all your eggs on these 1 to 2 priorities, you can actually make that impact that I know you want to make. So sit down and think about what that looks like. And in order to help you find your priorities, what you can do is think about what your values are as a founder and also what you want your brand to stand for. Personally, for a lot of our clients, they really hate plastics or they really want to deal with carbon emissions. And so think about what is important to you, and then now these become your North Star when it comes to your sustainability priorities. And if you're getting a lot out of these tips, I wanted to let you know that we have additional free sustainability resources. In particular, we have an amazing ebook. In this ebook, you're going to get everything I'm outlining in this video so that you can follow along, as well as exercises. We also have a detailed sustainability prioritization exercise so you can snag it there. And then secondly, we have an amazing masterclass where I am teaching you exactly how to set up your sustainability strategy. So make sure you snag both of these items at recloseted.com/sustainability. Now let's dive back into the video. The next step is to set targets. I always like to say, if you're not measuring things, you're not going to make that impact and you're not going to grow. So make sure you have the goals and you know the objectives so that you and your team can work towards them. And the key here is to really think about really great targets for those 1 to 2 priorities you have, and also other business activities you have going on. A pro tip is to analyze what's happening in the industry so you have a benchmark. And if you're realizing that you're below that benchmark, then obviously you want to get to that industry benchmark. And then if you're already there, then aim higher, right? Like, you really want to make sure you set realistic yet ambitious targets. That is key. I really want you to challenge yourself, so that's where the ambitious targets come into play, but you also want to be realistic, because the amount of targets I've seen from brands that are sky high, and in the back of my mind, I'm just like, are you actually going to achieve this? You know, like, that's just not helpful if you're not going to be achieving these targets and you're just setting sky high standards that you know deep down you're not going to get. So be realistic, but of course you still want to challenge yourself and move the needle as well. Once you have your targets, the next step is to develop a roadmap. It is so important to know exactly when and how you're going to get there. So develop a 6-month roadmap, a 1-year roadmap, a 3-year roadmap, a 5-year roadmap, and a 10-year roadmap. This is really important because this is going to be your North Star and a plan essentially on how you're going to achieve your objectives. And this is great too because you can tell your team, you can tell your customers, and you can really tell everyone exactly how you're going to achieve what you set out to achieve, right? And so it's really, really important, again though, to make it realistic yet ambitious. Think about, with your current situation, with the time, the resources, and the money you have, what can you actually accomplish, and work at it from that angle. Make sure that it is realistic yet ambitious. The next step after that is to measure. I always like to say that brands can say they're sustainable, they're eco, they're conscious, they're green until they're blue in the face. And I always like to say, if you have data and you have metrics to back up what you're saying, you are going to be able to stand out and really cut across all the greenwashing, right? And so it's really, really important to measure just from a communication perspective, so consumers know what you're doing, where you're at, and what you're working towards. But also internally, it's important to measure as well, because that way you can actually continuously improve and continuously raise the bar. It is really, really important to assess where you're at right now and then make goals that way too. Because if you know where you're at now and then you know what you're aiming for in, let's say, 6 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years, then you can continuously measure your progress. And from an engagement and morale perspective for your team too, they have something quantifiable to grasp onto and hold on to as they help you on your journey. Same thing with your customers too. If they know what goals you're reaching towards, it can almost gamify it and they'll really want to support you as well. So make sure you measure. The next step is to be transparent and share all of this with your audience and with your customers. I know that a lot of brands that have genuinely good sustainability strategies and practices tend to shy away from sharing it because they're afraid of backlash. They're afraid that they're not doing it perfect enough. And what I have to say to that is, remember that the very, 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 very first step is to accept that you're going to be imperfectly sustainable. There's no such thing as a perfect sustainable fashion brand, so just throw that out the window and just understand that the more transparent you are, the better, because that way your customers and your community can really understand what you're trying to do, and then they'll want to support you. So from a tactical perspective, I always tell our clients to share the sustainability priorities with their customers. So then that way they know why they're making the choices they're making. And if those customers really resonate with those priorities and that's really important to them, they'll want to support you. Same thing with your targets and with your roadmap. Make sure you share that as well so that your customers and your community know what you're aiming towards, what you're trying to achieve, and then they feel inclined and emotionally invested to share your journey, to really support you financially, or even, just again with sharing with their friends, their family. And so it's really, really important to be transparent. And I think the other thing about transparency is that it just raises the bar for the industry in general, because if brands all of a sudden are really sharing what they're doing and they're involving their customers in their process, for brands that genuinely aren't doing things and they're being silent, they're going to start to feel pressure to try to really figure out what they want to do as well. And so I think it's really, really important from an industry perspective that we really raise the bar and transparency just becomes table stakes. So please be transparent, please share with your customers. Do not be afraid of backlash or any of that. I think you should actually welcome questions, because that means that consumers are becoming more educated and more informed. And if they're asking you these questions and you have answers and you can, solidify and show them what they're doing, they're also going to be asking these other brands that don't have a strategy and don't know what they're doing. So welcome this. It's a really necessary discussion we need to have, and please don't shy away from it. And in line with the previous step around just being transparent and sharing, the next step is to take accountability. You are responsible for your brand, and your brand needs to take responsibility for what they're doing to the planet. And so whatever you're doing, just making sure that it aligns with your priorities, it aligns with your values, that's all you can do. And if there is a situation where people are asking you why you're doing certain things, just make sure you own up to why you're doing it. And if there's improvements you can make, then just say that you're going to make those improvements and put together a plan. Really own up to what you're doing, take that accountability, and like I said, do not shy away from it, because these are the conversations we need to be having in the fashion industry so that we can actually change things. So please, please, please don't shy away from it. Don't think of it as backlash or whatever. Like, really think of it as something that's positive that's happening, because like I said, if they're doing it with your brand, chances are consumers are also asking the same questions with other brands that aren't having practices. So this is what we need as an industry. So take the accountability and know that this is a journey, right? Like, you're going to continuously improve. You're going to continuously get better. So embrace it and really enjoy it as well. I think it's really, really cool what's happening in the fashion industry, and I cannot wait to see where we're at in a few years. If you loved this video and you got a lot out of it, make sure you download my free sustainability resources at recloseted.com/sustainability. Friendly reminder that there's an amazing ebook on the page and also an additional masterclass. I really want to make sure that you are able to really transform the fashion industry with these resources, so please take advantage of them. And if you found this video helpful, please check out my previous video on how to source sustainable materials even with low MOQs. That can also help you, as materials have a big environmental impact. Together, let's transform the harmful fashion industry.